Admiral Elena Santos stood at the bridge of the ESS Prometheus, Earth's first quantum leap-capable vessel, watching the unfamiliar stars streak past in ribbons of light. The ship's experimental drive hummed beneath her feet, a sound that still felt foreign even after 6 months of command. Humanity had finally cracked the code of faster-than-light travel, but they'd done it in a way that defied conventional physics. They didn't break the universal speed limit. They simply chose to ignore it. "Signal confirmed, Admiral," Lieutenant Park announced from his station, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "The alien transmission is originating from the Alcyone system, approximately 440 light-years from Earth. Their technology signature suggests a Type Io civilization." Elena allowed herself a small smile. When humanity had first detected the signal 3 years ago, the world's governments had expected another century of preparation before making first contact. Instead, it had taken just 36 months for humanity to develop the technology necessary for interstellar travel. The impossible timeline had been achieved through a combination of artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and human determination. "What's the status of our approach vector, Commander Chen?" Elena asked, turning to her second-in-command. "We're maintaining course along the quantum slipstream, Admiral. Our new calculations suggest we'll emerge within their outer defense perimeter. They won't see us coming, not with our quantum signature masked by the drive's unique frequency." The bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency, but Elena could sense their underlying excitement. This wasn't just humanity's first contact with an alien civilization. It was humanity taking the initiative. They weren't waiting to be discovered. They were making the first move. "Message from Earth Command, Admiral," Communications Officer Rodriguez reported. "They're reminding us of First Contact Protocol Alpha." Elena almost laughed. Protocol Alpha was simple: observe and report. But humanity had already decided to throw that out the window. They were going with Protocol Beta instead: engage and adapt. "Send our acknowledgement, Rodriguez, and prepare to broadcast on all frequencies when we arrive. We're going to give them quite a show." The Prometheus carried more than just a crew of trained spacefarers. They had brought artists, musicians, scientists, and philosophers. Their mission wasn't just to make contact. It was to demonstrate humanity's unique approach to existence itself. As they approached their destination, the ship's sensors began picking up the alien civilization's defense grid. It was impressive. A network of quantum-based shields that would have been impenetrable to any conventional approach. But the Prometheus wasn't conventional. Its drive system operated on principles that the aliens hadn't considered, not because they couldn't, but because they hadn't imagined them. Multiple artificial structures detected, the sensor officer reported. Their technology is advanced, but rigid, standardized. They're using quantum mechanics like it's classical physics. All rules and no interpretation. Elena nodded. This was exactly what they had hoped for. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology. It was their ability to think sideways, to see patterns where others saw chaos, to find solutions where others saw impossibilities. "Begin broadcasting Package Alpha," Elena commanded. "Let's show them who we are." The Prometheus began transmitting Earth's first message to the alien civilization. But instead of formal greetings or mathematical equations, they sent art, music, poetry, philosophy. The collected works of Shakespeare alongside quantum physics papers, rock music and Renaissance paintings, cat videos and breakthrough papers on genetic engineering. "They're responding," Rodriguez announced, surprise evident in his voice. "Multiple channels. They're trying to process everything at once." Elena smiled. The alien civilization was about to learn something crucial about humanity. They didn't just think outside the box. They questioned why there needed to be a box in the first place. "Take us in closer," she ordered. "Let's give them a proper introduction to humanity." The Prometheus glided through space, its quantum drive humming a song of human ingenuity. They weren't just making first contact. They were rewriting the rules of how first contact should be made. And as they approached the alien defense grid, Alina knew that the universe was about to learn an important lesson. Humanity didn't just adapt to the impossible. They made the impossible adapt to them. Supreme Coordinator Vextal of the Collective stood in the central chamber of the Grand Analysis Hub, surrounded by holographic displays showing the impossible. The human vessel had not only penetrated their defense grid, but had done so while broadcasting what appeared to be every aspect of their civilization's culture. The sheer volume of data was overwhelming their processing systems. "Report," Vextal commanded, all 6 of their sensory appendages twitching with agitation. First Analyst, Rin Shah stepped forward, their crystalline form reflecting the chaos of data streams surrounding them. "The humans are inefficient, Supreme Coordinator. Their technological development is non-linear, their social structures are in constant flux, and their methods of problem-solving defy all established protocols." "Explain," Vextal demanded, focusing their primary consciousness on the analyst. "They developed faster than light travel by accident," Renshaw began, their voice tinged with disbelief. "They were attempting to create a new form of quantum entertainment system, something they call virtual reality. When they discovered that consciousness could be used to manipulate quantum states, instead of following the standard progression of technological development, they simply jumped ahead." The displays showed footage from Earth's history, centuries of warfare and conflict interspersed with breathtaking achievements in art, science, and exploration. The Collective had always believed that a species needed to achieve perfect unity before reaching for the stars. Humans had done it while still embracing their differences. "Their ship's defensive capabilities?" Vextal inquired. "That's another anomaly," Second Analyst Curvex interjected. "They don't have any. At least, not in any way we recognize. Their hull is composed of materials we would consider obsolete, but they've somehow quantum entangled the atomic structure. Our weapons literally cannot affect them, because the ship exists in a state of quantum uncertainty." Vextal's sensory appendages coiled tightly. "You're saying they'd weaponized Schrödinger's theory?" "No, Supreme Coordinator. They'd weaponized their understanding of Schrödinger's theory. The distinction is crucial. They don't just apply scientific principles. They interpret them, question them, and then reconstruct them to serve their needs." The chamber filled with new data as the human ship, this Prometheus, continued broadcasting. They were sending everything. Their mistakes, their triumphs, their fears, and their dreams. The Collective had always believed that showing weakness was a fatal error, yet these humans displayed their flaws proudly, as if they were badges of honor. "Their genetic structure is equally fascinating," Third Analyst Miralon added. "They're from what we would classify as a death world, but instead of evolving specialized adaptations, they develop general adaptability. They can survive in almost any environment, not because they're particularly suited to it, but because they figure out how to make it suit them." Vextal watched as the human ship maneuvered closer to their primary installation. By all logical analysis, this should have been concerning. Instead, they found themselves curious. The humans moved through space like they were dancing, unpredictable yet purposeful, chaotic yet controlled. "They're requesting direct communication," Communications Director Zexpor announced. "But they're not using standard protocols. They're simultaneously transmitting in every format we've ever encountered, plus several we haven't. It's as if they're trying every possible way to talk to us at once, assuming that one of them will work." "And their message?" Vextal asked. "They want to share ideas," Zexpor replied, clearly struggling with the concept. "Not traditional knowledge exchange. They're proposing what they call brainstorming sessions. They want to combine our logical precision with their creative chaos." The chamber fell silent as the implications settled in. The Collective had spent millennia perfecting their society, eliminating inefficiencies, and standardizing everything from thought processes to technological development. These humans had achieved comparable advancement by embracing the very chaos the collective had sought to eliminate. Supreme Coordinator Renshaw spoke softly. I believe we may need to reconsider our definition of efficiency. The humans, they don't optimize by removing variables. They optimize by adding more variables, and then finding ways to make them work together. Vextal stood in silence, watching the endless stream of human culture and achievement flow around them. Everything they had believed about progress and development was being challenged by these beings who treated the impossible as merely a suggestion. Prepare for direct contact, Vextal finally ordered. But first, analyze everything they've sent us. I want to understand how a species can be so fundamentally wrong about everything according to our models, yet so undeniably successful. As the analysis team scrambled to comply, Vextal couldn't help but wonder if the collective was about to learn that their perfect order was actually a perfect limitation. The humans weren't just bringing new ideas, they were bringing a new way of having ideas. The first diplomatic meeting between humanity and the collective took place in what the humans would later describe as the most boring room in the universe. The chamber of standardized discourse was designed to eliminate all variables that might influence decision-making. Admiral Santos found it hilarious. You know, she said to her hosts, deliberately breaking protocol by speaking before the official commencement. On Earth, we found that some of our best diplomatic breakthroughs happened over dinner, or while playing games, or even during what we call coffee breaks. The collective representatives, led by Supreme Coordinator Vextal, showed what might have been confusion. It was hard to read expressions on their alien features. Sustenance, consumption, and recreational activities are separate from diplomatic functions, Vextal stated. Dr. Sarah Chen, the Prometheus's chief scientist, grinned. That's exactly what makes them perfect for diplomacy. When you remove the formal structure, people, or beings, tend to be more honest, more creative in their thinking. The meeting that followed would be recorded in both human and collective archives as the moment everything changed. The humans didn't just break protocol. They shattered it, rebuilt it, and turned it into something entirely new. Instead of following the collective's rigid negotiation framework, Admiral Santos pulled out a deck of playing cards. Let's try something different, she suggested. Each card represents a topic for discussion. We'll draw them randomly, keeping everyone on their toes. The collective's processing director, Yinlex, looked like they might short-circuit. But how can we prepare appropriate responses without knowing the sequence? That's the point, Lieutenant Park chimed in. The best solutions often come when we're forced to think on our feet. What followed was unlike any diplomatic exchange in the collective's history. The humans introduced concepts that seemed contradictory yet worked in practice. They talked about competitive cooperation, structured chaos, and planned spontaneity. Your species, First Analyst Renshaw observed, appears to thrive on paradox. We don't just thrive on it, Dr. Chen replied. We seek it out. Some of our greatest discoveries came from embracing contradictions rather than trying to eliminate them. The real breakthrough came when discussing space travel technology. The collective had developed their quantum shield technology through centuries of careful, methodical research. The humans had discovered their quantum slip drive because someone asked, what if we tried to quantum entangle a cat video? But that's not how scientific development should proceed, Processing Director Yinlex protested. Should? Admiral Santos raised an eyebrow. Who decides what should be? We found that some of our best innovations come from asking why not, instead of why. The impact of human thinking began to spread through the collective like a virus, though the humans preferred to call it intellectual pollination. Young members of the collective started questioning established procedures. Some began experimenting with human concepts like brainstorming and thinking outside the box. The collective's military strategists were particularly disturbed by humanity's approach to space combat simulations. Instead of following established doctrine, human commanders would invent new tactics on the spot, often incorporating elements that seemed completely unrelated to warfare. During one simulation, a human lieutenant defeated a collective battle fleet by adapting a technique from Earth ballet. If you think about it, she explained to the bewildered alien observers, space combat is just a dance with deadly consequences. The humans weren't just sharing their technology. They were sharing their way of thinking, and it was proving to be far more disruptive than any weapon could be. The collective's carefully ordered society began experiencing something they had long ago engineered out of their civilization: chaos. But it wasn't destructive chaos. It was creative chaos, productive chaos, the kind of chaos that had driven human innovation for millennia. Some members of the collective began to see the appeal of this new way of thinking, while others clung desperately to their established order. "Your species," Supreme Coordinator Vextal said to Admiral Santos during one of their now regular informal meetings, "is changing us." "Change is what we do best," Santos replied. "But we're not changing you. We're just showing you possibilities you haven't considered. What you do with those possibilities is entirely up to you." The collective was facing a choice: adapt to this new way of thinking or resist it. But as more of their younger members began experimenting with human-style innovation, it became clear that the change couldn't be stopped. The humans hadn't come to conquer with weapons or technology. They had invaded with ideas, and ideas were the hardest things to quarantine. When the Nexus crisis struck, the collective's first instinct was to implement their standard emergency protocols. They had contingency plans for every conceivable disaster, except this one. A quantum cascade failure in their primary communication hub threatened to collapse their entire network of instantaneous information transfer, potentially isolating billions of their citizens across thousands of worlds. The collective's response was to attempt to restore order. Humanity's response was to embrace the disorder. "You're trying to force the quantum particles back into their original state," Dr. Chen explained during the emergency summit. "But they've already evolved beyond that. We need to work with the chaos, not against it." The collective's scientific council watched in horror as the humans began implementing what they called controlled chaos theory. Instead of trying to restore the original quantum network, they began introducing even more randomness into the system. Admiral Santos stood at the command center of the Prometheus, coordinating with Earth's quantum computing teams. "Think of it like jazz," she told the bewildered collective scientists. "Sometimes you have to improvise to find the right rhythm." The humans had brought their quantum entertainers, developers of their virtual reality systems who understood quantum mechanics not through rigid formulas, but through intuitive manipulation. They treated quantum particles like musical notes, creating what they called a symphony of probability. "This is madness," Processing Director Yinlex protested as they watched the humans work. "They're increasing the entropy of an already unstable system." "Exactly," Lieutenant Park replied with a grin. "Sometimes you have to increase the chaos to find a new order. It's like surfing. You don't fight the wave, you ride it." The human approach was unlike anything the collective had ever considered. While their scientists worked with precise calculations and established theories, the humans combined mathematical models with artistic intuition. They treated quantum mechanics less like a set of rules and more like a creative medium. "Look at this pattern." Dr. Chen pointed to a holographic display showing the quantum fluctuations. "It's not random, it's jazz. The particles aren't misbehaving, they're improvising. We just need to join their performance." The breakthrough came when a human virtual reality designer suggested treating the entire quantum network as a massive multiplayer game. "In gaming, chaos is a feature, not a bug," she explained. "Players create emergent behavior that you could never predict, but you can create systems that channel that chaos into something beautiful." The collective watched in amazement as the humans began playing with their quantum network. Instead of trying to force the particles back into their predetermined paths, they created new pathways that adapted to the particles' natural tendencies. It was like watching someone turn a disaster into a dance. "Your species," Supreme Coordinator Vextal observed, "appears to have turned chaos into an art form." "We had to," Admiral Santos replied. Earth's history is a story of chaos. Natural disasters, climate change, social upheaval. We learned that trying to prevent chaos is futile. The key is learning to dance with it. As the quantum network began to stabilize, not into its original state, but into something new and more resilient, the collective started to understand. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their intelligence, but their ability to find patterns in chaos and opportunities in crisis. The new network that emerged was unlike anything either civilization had imagined. It was more flexible, more adaptable, and paradoxically more stable than the original. The quantum particles were still in a state of constant flux, but now that flux was part of the system's strength rather than its weakness. "You've turned our communication network into music," Renshaw said, their crystalline form reflecting the dancing quantum patterns. "No," Dr. Chen corrected with a smile. "We just helped you hear the music that was already there. The universe isn't a machine running on precise rules. It's a jazz performance, and we're all part of the band." The Nexus crisis became a turning point in the relationship between humanity and the collective. It demonstrated that humanity's seeming chaos wasn't a flaw in their development. It was the source of their strength. They had evolved not by mastering their environment, but by mastering adaptation itself. The collective began to see that their pursuit of perfect order had become a perfect prison. Humanity hadn't just shown them a new way to solve problems. They'd shown them a new way to exist. In the face of an increasingly complex universe, adaptation and creativity weren't just useful skills. They were essential for survival. 1 year after the Nexus crisis, the Grand Observation Deck of the collective's central hub hosted an unprecedented gathering. Representatives from both civilizations stood together, watching the construction of the first joint human collective research station. The structure defied conventional design, combining the collective's precision with humanity's creative flair. Admiral Santos stood beside Supreme Coordinator Vextal, both watching as construction drones danced through space in patterns that would have been considered chaotic a year ago, but now represented a new form of efficiency. "When we first detected your signal," Vextal began, "we expected either a primitive species requiring guidance or an advanced civilization similar to our own. Instead, we found something we didn't know could exist, a species that advanced not through perfection, but through imperfection." Dr. Chen, who had been analyzing data from their latest joint experiments, joined them. "Evolution isn't about reaching perfection," she said. "It's about maintaining the ability to change. Perfect systems can't evolve. They can only break." The evidence of their combined influence was visible throughout both civilizations. The collective had begun incorporating human-style creative sessions into their development processes, while human ships now featured elegant elements of collective engineering. But the most profound changes were philosophical. "We thought we had reached the peak of evolution," Renshaw admitted, their crystalline form now modified with organic elements, a once unthinkable fusion of styles. "We had eliminated uncertainty, standardized our development, and created what we believed was the perfect society. But you showed us that perfection is stagnation." Lieutenant Park, now heading a joint tactical development team, pulled up a holographic display of their latest project. "And you showed us that chaos needs structure to be truly productive. We've learned as much from your precision as you've learned from our creativity." The display showed their newest achievement, a hybrid quantum communication system that used controlled chaos as a feature rather than a bug. It was more secure than anything either civilization had developed alone, precisely because it was unpredictable in ways that only its creators could understand. "Your arrival wasn't just first contact," Vextal observed. "It was first evolution. The first time two spacefaring species have actively influenced each other's development rather than just sharing technology." Admiral Santos smiled, remembering their initial broadcast of Earth's culture. "We didn't just share our achievements. We shared our process, our mistakes, our conflicts, our constant questioning of everything, even ourselves. The observation deck filled with more representatives from both species as they gathered for the official opening ceremony of the research station. Young collective members mingled with human scientists, their conversations a mixture of precise logical analysis and wild speculation. "Look at them," Dr. Chen said softly. "They're not just exchanging ideas, they're creating new ways of thinking. It's cultural evolution in real time." The research station, now complete, began its first rotation. Its design was a physical representation of their combined philosophy, structured yet adaptable, efficient yet creative. It wasn't just a place for research. It was a symbol of what different species could achieve when they learned from each other's strengths. "We came looking for new perspectives," Admiral Santos reflected, "but we found something more important. We found proof that evolution doesn't end with technological advancement. It's not about reaching a final, perfect state. It's about maintaining the capacity for change." Vextil finished. "Your species taught us that. The universe isn't a problem to be solved. It's a story that's still being written." As the ceremony began, both species looked out at the stars with new eyes. The collective had learned to embrace uncertainty as a source of growth, while humanity had gained an appreciation for the power of structured thinking. Together, they had created something unprecedented, a partnership between order and chaos, between precision and creativity. "So," Admiral Santos asked with a characteristic grin, "what impossible thing should we try next?" The question hung in the air, not as a challenge but as a promise. The future that stretched before them wasn't a path to perfection, but an endless journey of discovery. They had proven that true advancement wasn't about eliminating variables or controlling chaos. It was about learning to thrive in a universe that would always have more to teach them. Both civilizations had been transformed, not through war or competition, but through the simple act of sharing different ways of thinking. The human invasion hadn't been one of weapons or technology. It had been an invasion of ideas. And ideas, once shared, could never be unshared. As the stars wheeled overhead, humanity and the collective stood together at the beginning of a new chapter in cosmic evolution. They had learned that the greatest strength any species could possess wasn't power or knowledge, but the ability to change, to grow, and to see the universe through new eyes. The first human invasion had succeeded beyond anyone's expectations, not by conquering, but by sharing, not by fighting, but by teaching. And in doing so, they had started something that would ripple through the galaxy. The understanding that true evolution wasn't about becoming perfect, but about remaining perfectly adaptable.